Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Eitan Berger. American-born rabbi, author, and family therapist Avraham Shira has led numerous spiritual writers' workshops and spiritual retreats, both in the United States as well as in Israel. Today, Rabbi Shira shares how by listening to one's soul, one is able to receive guidance from Hashem or God.
Every question that arises in life has a proper answer, an answer that we believe is from a higher source. Now, that higher source, of course, it has many, many names. We call it God. We call it the creator of the universe. But each person has a spark of that creator in him. I like to think of that spark as like a little speaker. And that speaker wants to communicate with us. But we have to open ourselves up to it in order to hear what that higher source of advice has to give us. We learn there is a process of transcendence that takes place between our normal everyday consciousness and reaching that higher self that has access to all the information that we need. Another way of understanding it is like everybody is a PC, a personal computer, on a giant mainframe, and the collective mainframe of all those little PCs, we call that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, which is the sum total of all knowledge. Now, each person has knowledge that he needs for his life. So our work has been to extract the knowledge that we need to live our lives according to a higher standard, a better standard, a more successful way to live. Now, this advice is not something that we come to overnight. It takes a lot of work. It takes it's a practice of, again, of cleansing our external selves, all the agendas that are sent to us from all the different places in our lives, to clarify the channel that we have to this higher self of the universe, and to reach a quiet where we can start to recognize which voices are really external and which are true. Because all of us have a voice that's really true. And then we have all the external voices, the voices of our parents, the voices of our grandparents, the voices of our teachers, our rabbis, our ministers. Those voices are inside us because we are interactive beings who are communicating all the time and receiving and giving to each other. But not all of them are accessing that deeper self. So what we try to do in meditation is to reach a place of silence in order to be able to listen at a much more precise and godly, self-confident way. Now, godly self-confidence is confidence in ourselves with God. Rabbi Nachman has a beautiful teaching. He says, what is it to love ourselves? It's to love ourselves with the love that God loves us. In other words, because when I feel love for you, is it my love? Did I go out and buy it? Did I earn it? No, I believe that the love was sent to me from a higher place in order to share that love with you. So when we recognize that all these emotions are sent to us from the higher places in our souls, then we start to be able to become observers of ourselves. Now that is reaching a new level in the soul itself. When we can observe ourselves, we've achieved a new level of understanding. This practice is tremendously rewarding because it gives us a sense of peace and calm, a sense that no matter what happens in life, I can deal with it. I have a friend, I have a brother, I have a teacher, I have a master. And that master, again, we can call it whatever name any of the world's religions wants to call it. But every man knows that it's inside, in the heart. Now, there are many obstacles and challenges along the way that we have to deal with. In the dealing with them, we actually elevate ourselves to a higher level. When I am able to access a faith in that higher power, the weight is miraculously taken off our shoulders. Suddenly I know that there's something greater than me in the world that wants the best for all concerned, the best for all people in all situations. Once that weight is removed, we achieve this godly self-confidence. As that channel is developed, we become even more confident in our ability to connect to Hashem in all areas of life. So when we're doing mitzvot, when we're praying, when we're learning Torah, when we're teaching others, when we're going out to build a sukkah, suddenly we have access to information that we didn't know we had. And so when you practice this discipline of talking your truth to God, you start to separate the falsehood from ourselves. Once I get in touch with my own truth, I can recognize what's not true. And we know that God dwells in truth and He wants our best in all situations. So it's a process of getting in touch with our truth, honoring that truth, honoring our thoughts. When we know our thoughts are sent to us from a higher place, I can start to look at my thoughts and honor them and say, wait a minute, that thought I just had, that's not very reasonable. Where did that come from? That's from somewhere else. That's not the truth. And I start to sift and filter my own thinking process. Now, it sounds difficult, but again, it's not overnight. But as we work the process, we practice the steps that are outlined in my book, we become truly joyous beings. We become people who are grateful to be who we are. And what greater gift can we have than to say, I love being myself. King David said, Barchi nafshi, my blessing is my soul. When we understand that our soul is a piece of God, sent to us to speak, to guide us, to teach us, to lead us, we're no longer under this burden, this emptiness, this feeling of being alone in the world. We have someone with us all the time.
Abigail Sarah Bagraim is a mystical painter whose Jewish identity is paramount to her art. It is this individuality that makes it impossible to align her work with any other South African contemporary artist. Apart from her artistic creativity, Abigail is a serious academic and student of Jewish mysticism. She is presently working on her doctoral thesis on aspects of the Kabbalah, which represents the resurgence of a divine mystical tradition within Judaism.
When I was traveling 30 years ago to Czechoslovakia and to Russia and to Germany, I noticed all these beautiful memorials to the Jewish people who had lost their lives. And I just became very fascinated by these memorials for all the people who had died and didn't have grave sites. And I started developing this absolute fascination for memorials. And I decided now that I've got to put all these memorials down into my paintings so that people will always remember what happened to the Jews. And, I have family members who have suffered, so I'm a third-generation child of the Holocaust.
Abigail went to study Jewish mysticism, and she studied the Kabbalah. And what she was looking for in this patriarchal world of destruction and horror, and what she found in the Kabbalah was the female image, the female entity of God. And this is manifested in many of her paintings. This is how Abigail, as a third-generation Holocaust survivor, is seeing it.
I believe that through the horror and the sickness of what happened to the Jewish people, I really and truly believe that we have been reincarnated and there are souls that are wandering around the earth that were suffering during the Holocaust. So I've been bringing in the light, the shining gold, the shining silver, blues, greens, all the different colors, angels. You will see a lot of angels and spirits in my work because I do believe in reincarnation.
The essence also of Abigail's art is the belief in the Gilgul Neshamot, of the Kabbalistic concept of reincarnation. She cannot accept the finality of the death and destruction of the Jewish people in the Holocaust. She must think of somehow they went on, they live on. And she paints all kinds of symbols of transformation, symbols of resurrection, to show that the souls live on in the afterlife. Abigail paints during the night when other people sleep and dream. And she paints sometimes being unconscious of what she paints. Abigail and her father went to the ghetto in Riga. And being a mystic and being very strongly a person of the subconscious and subconscious symbols, she painted this in her way. It has got an inner core of the ghetto and an outer core of the universe, the sky. Up in the sky, we see Abigail inside a mandala, and she is weeping. She's weeping opposite what she sees, the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the female presence of God, of the Godhead. There is this total feeling of loss, of what has been. We see Abigail again in front of her easel, and she is painting this, she is recording it, but she is eyeing us, the viewer. She wants to connect us physically with what is happening here. There's the white peacock, which is a symbol of resurrection. There is the phoenix that renews itself, rising from the ashes in the Greek mythology. There are the butterflies that fly upwards, which are the transformation symbols. And what Abigail is saying here is, I am recording this, we will remember this, and these people will live on. They will be transformed to the Gilgul, through the reincarnation, and through our memory of them. After the Holocaust, many Jews went to America and were welcomed there. Michael Alfano created a memorial of people who came to America after the Holocaust. This is a memorial of 3 groups: father, mother, and the child. The child is pulling the parents, especially the mother, forward. Come with me. And the father and the mother, who have been through the concentration camps, are still not certain. She looks back at a figure which Abigail took from the artwork of a Dutch puppeteer called Jan van Erkelens, the swamp spirit, the moerasgeest, a person that draws you down into helplessness. And up in the sky are Kabbalistic symbols, the pomegranate, the symbol of hope, the flowers, the red flowers. But on the right side, there are also thistles, which we know from Genesis. Up within the mandala, up in the upper part of the picture, there is a butterfly, which we now know is a transformation symbol. It touches angels, angels with flowers in their hands. So there is this feeling of fear and of hope for the future. In this painting, Abigail comes back to Cape Town and to the Jewish cemetery in Pinelands. There is a Holocaust monument by Hillel Turok, where each year in Pinelands the Yom HaShoah commemoration takes place. She paints this Holocaust memorial, which is built from a Star of David with its 6 corners symbolizing the 6 million, and pillars arising from it, which represent different concentration camps. And there's a fountain which symbolizes the tears that were shed in the Holocaust. At the top of which we see the synagogue, the Garden Shul, and the Old Shul next to each other. And then there's Abigail with her waving hair as part of this element, the sky and the memory of it. So past and present here are one. This is a very menacing painting. It is a painting full of fear and foreboding. What is going to happen?
I have now completed my Holocaust series. I think I've now got it out of my system. I'll always be fascinated by it because it's part of our journey. It's part of who we are and who we were. And it's because I believe in reincarnation. I lived my life and I've at least done my little bit. And if we can all just do our little bit, then these poor souls who suffered so much will never be forgotten.
Rabbi Simon Jacobson, director of the Meaningful Life Center in New York, believes that it is his mission in life to spread spirituality. Simcha traveled to New York, where Rabbi Jacobson shared his thoughts about inner joy and finding your purpose in life.
Many people ask, how do you access or create joy in your life when things are not going well? You may be despondent, you may have some suffering, some pain, some loss. How does one become joyous when they don't feel it? And this is especially a acute question when it comes to Judaism, because in Judaism we actually have a commandment to be joyous, to be happy. So it's one thing you can regulate actions, but how do you regulate an emotion? At Purim we're told, be happy. There are other times it says, the holidays are joyous times. And every day it says, serve God with joy. Be a happy person. How do you create happiness when you're not happy, you're not in a happy mood? It's a great question, but it really touches upon something that is about ourselves, the human condition and the human being, what makes us tick. The natural, inherent state of a human being is joy. And that's why it's not about how do you find joy in times of sadness, it's how do you access the inner joy that's inherent in every human being, even in times that are not so easy or pleasant. And you'll see truly happy people don't have a formula, they're just happy. And even when they go through difficult times, not necessarily smiling, they may be crying, they may be grieving, but there's a deeper inner fountain of joy that's always there. But you have to always remember that we all have joy as a natural birthright. And why is that? Because we all have souls. If we were just bodies, inanimate entities, so fine. Every entity has its own personality. But the soul has only celebration at its disposal. Because you remember, a soul is an ethereal, transcendent entity that is not defined by money and by other successes. Some may argue that sad people become even more sadder when they have money. It looks like it because it seems like if I have money, I can buy anything I want. If I can buy anything I want, I'll be a happy person. It's not true. You may have a sugar-coated experience that makes you feel good, But happiness is a state of being, it's a state of mind. Then you'll find people who have nothing materially, poor. They're their personalities, their disposition is a happy one. Happiness is a state of being that emerges when certain things are clicking a certain way, which means when a person is secure, they grew up in a home where they were nurtured, where they feel confident, their self-esteem is intact. These factors create happiness. And you'll never find someone that can suddenly say, here are 10 steps to happiness. I know in our fast food world and world of how to do this and self-help and so on, everyone's trying to sell us, do this and do that. It doesn't work that way. You'll see all the happy people you'll meet, you'll not be able to find one thing they did. It was a state of being that emerged from a certain acceptance, an acceptance of what their lives are like. Every one of us has it inherently, and then it's often ripped away from us, or better said, it's concealed due to the circumstances of what you see around you. So a child will be naturally happy. You'll never see children, for example, get happy. Give a child $1 million. Will it make a difference? They don't even know what it is. Money means nothing to them. Give a child a smile. Show them that you care, and you make them happy. What does that tell you about the natural state of the human being? And then as adults, we project our material standards to our children. So then they begin to also worship what we worship. So instead of just valuing yourself and your purpose in life, you start valuing the objects and the money and other financial and material ways of what is considered measuring success and happiness. So it's something we all have within us, and the key to it is to maybe strip away all those smoke screens and all those extracurricular and distractions that don't let us access the inner joy that each of us has. The simplest way to do this is to be around people that have true joy, because that rubs off. By osmosis, you start picking it up. And the second thing to do is to start focusing every morning you wake up. Focus on your soul instead of on your body. What I mean by that is focus why you're here and your soul's purpose instead of your job or the details of our survival. Those may be important things, but they're not the heart and soul of what makes you tick. That's why in Judaism there's a prayer in the morning that each of us can say, no matter who we are, Jew or non-Jew. It's a universal prayer which says, I acknowledge Moda'ani, I acknowledge to you for returning my soul to me. Saying this to God. In other words, it's putting things into focus that my day, my life is defined by the hub, which is my soul, not by my material activities. Guaranteed, you focus on nurturing your soul, you become a happier person, or better said, you access the natural joy, which is the part and parcel of what your soul and what makes you tick.
In this week's Mishnah from Pirkei Avot, chapter 4, verse 1, Ben Zoma would say, "Who is wise? One who learns from every man. From all my teachers I have grown wise, for your testimonials are my meditation." That's all we have time for this week's episode of Simcha. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us. If you'd like to be in touch with us, please find us on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions and drop us a line. From myself, Eitan Berger, and the whole team here at Simcha, have a great week and goodbye.